My name's Denise Harris, and I've been doing art my whole life. I've been very privileged to be able to do whatever I've wanted to, and I guess that's the reason why I do so many different things. And, moved up here in '79, and that started me on my journey of adventures in art, I guess you would say. One thing about my art is that it's really accessible. It's not modern art. It's not abstract. It is these little fun pieces of little slices of life, and I think people really enjoy that. I've always been interested in miniatures. It certainly started when I was young with my cousin Margot, and we collected miniatures that we would keep in these little boxes, and I think that is what kind of has continued through my life. I've always been intrigued with small things. In her family, they always had a Christmas tree that had toys around the tree. And so I grew up going to their house at Christmas time, and these were toys that were their parents. So even when I was a kid, these were antiques. But her mother kept all the toys in the boxes they came in after, Christmas was over. And I got fascinated with the box top versus the toy that was in it. One of the pieces in the show is Flying Ace, and it's this really fast-looking airplane that's on the outside of the box. And I got intrigued with that, the fact that you bought this toy because it had this really cool thing, and it wasn't that the toy wasn't cool, but the toy was quite different. That's one of the things that I have done in this, in the sculptures that I made, is looking back as a kid what was fascinating, and I still like that fascination with toys, with things that are small and interesting. Certainly life is a journey, and I've done a lot of travel and had the opportunity to have a pretty fun life. And so I would say the vehicles just have always interested me, or the journey has always interested me, whether it's doing art or actually traveling or visiting friends or, anything that makes up your life. One of my friend's daughter came through the show, and she said, "Boy, I really wish I could shrink down so I could go in the vehicle and go away." And I thought, what a cool thing. I'd never thought about it. And of course, I thought that was pretty exciting. I thought, God, I'd like to be able to do that too, Oh, and then another piece that's interesting is the one that the show is called Art Untethered. And it's the hanging piece that has like a balloon with a man in this harness underneath. And he's got like something that represents jewelry. There's a little drinking vessel, and he's holding a paintbrush, and he's got a book. And so it's kind of the arts. There's some music and things, and he's tethered to this thing. But what's interesting about that piece is that the balloon is actually a float from a toilet. So I went to Ace Hardware and bought that float, and it has a seam down the center of it with little things that hold it together. So I cut out that metal part, and then that became the fish, is what it is, that he's under. My studio's just filled with pieces of things. I do use a lot of plumbing parts, so you'll see that front end of a space vehicle might be, like a faucet end or something. So it's amazing where the mind goes. When I'm working on those miniature pieces, I don't give myself all the time in the world. That you're doing it for a show, so the show's in 3 months. So pretty soon you realize you really have to start working on it. You're making all these decisions, which are challenging and fun in a way, but then there is actually assembling the piece, actually soldering it together, and the polishing, and the all the parts that end up happening. And whatever that creative thing is, I don't know what happens. Is it going to be a night sky? Is it going to have, clouds? Is it going to have whatever? It happens as you go. I don't have a vision of the entire piece until I'm working on parts of the piece. But once it's done and out where people can see it, I'm kind of amazed as well. It is a process. But at the end, when you're looking at it, you think, that's okay. I've always been interested in art. And another one of my brothers, Jim, had a friend that had a screen printing place in Los Angeles. He was doing screen printing. They said, well, why don't you learn to screen print? You're an artist, you could do screen printing. I don't know if other people have that. Something comes up and it becomes a crossroad, but you don't really know when it's coming, when it happens. But then you look back on it and you think, God, it was just you'd be in the right place at the right time, or, and it's a major thing. And so I started doing screen printing and ended up getting connected to this company that did these huge editions. I did editions of 500 pieces for them. And my specialty was embossed serigraphs. So the pieces that are at the show, a number of them are embossed. Alan Simcoe offered a class in making an ukulele. So I thought, well, that'd be fun to do. And so my piece, the ukulele that I made, has inlay and it has all these things because I had all those other capabilities. But it wasn't an original thought, in other words. The opportunity came up and I thought, well, that would be a really interesting thing to do. The wagon came about because I had this glass stopper, a round stopper that goes in a, like a wine bottle. And I said, God, you could build a wagon around this. So that's how it started. And then I worked with a shipwright named Dave Sutter, who was the person that really knew how to build something. And we worked together probably half-time for about 3 years to build it. But it was a long project. I look back and think, golly, I had a lot of energy. So, it's all a journey. It's just like the opportunity would come up and you either do it or you let it pass you by and go on to something else. And life just kind of comes at you and you figure out something that you want to do with, what is coming at you. Pay attention to the little small parts, because you never know when something that seems minor is going to change your life. Because day to day, it's not these big giant things that happen, but they're out there. And if you embrace them, you can have a lot of fun doing art, as I've been happy to do in my lifetime. I'm not stopping.